to something solid. For if he had not been bound to the housing for the tiller and its helmsman having long since left their company, he would have been flung over the side into the angry waves that carried the image of Neptune's horses, their long jaws snapping at him beneath flowing manes. When Quintus had joined up with such enthusiasm that spring day on the Campus Martius, he had expected to fight in heroic battles and take part in triumphs. He had thought women would throw themselves at his feet. He did not care that his father who had also served, who was spent from the incessant wars of the old Republic, wanted only to see the back of him so that he could lavish all his attention on Quintus' younger brother. He thought he would be picked first, due to his great height, his reach, his stamina. But instead it was those youths with wide shoulders, deep chests, and solid thighs that had been the first to be chosen. He was fair, lithe and supple. They, it seemed, wanted squat, wide and strong. He was intelligent, he could even read and write. And he did not think those that went before him were. When finally chosen, his new companions had immediately named him Macilentus, lofty, and referred to him often as a streak of piss. But there was no malice in it. He had gained a friend, Crassus, mocked for his serious demeanour rather than his height, a dark and curly-haired blacksmith recruited with him who had proved loyal and steadfast. His entry into the legions had been more of a forced decision than a choice. He had been running from a violent, war-scarred father, a mother afraid of him, the fire and the forge of his trade, and the ghost of a kidnapped brother. For now he did not know if his friend or any of his contubernum had survived this tempest. The waves lifted the boat and tossed it from crest to crest. A bigger, heavier ship would have plunged bow first into the valleys between the mountainous waves. It would have sought the seabed with its pointed prow. Their boat, however, was light, and whilst it was hurled into the air it turned and tossed, pirouetting and dancing, splashing water out of its sides at much the same rate as it was coming in. For a full day, and maybe even a full night, for it was impossible to tell the difference, the boat was tossed and battered. The rain veered between incessant to a gentle curtain, soft as a summer shower. Sometimes, when it relented, it seemed to Quintus as if he might touch the ghostly white cliffs of Britannia he could glimpse to the north. At other times they hung impossibly in the air, unreachable. Even if he had the means to steer the crippled craft, to fight the wind and waves, they could not have landed. The cliffs dipped their ivory claws into the sea at their base, whilst the foam crashed and complained at the lack of beach. Jagged rocks stood up, some visible, others half submerged, appearing only when the trough of a wave reached them. Any one of them would have ripped the boat apart. The wind veered from north to west and back again, making the craft buck like an unbroken stallion. From time to time he was able to glimpse the rest of the boat. He couldn't make out much detail, but at least he knew that some of those in his charge were still on board, lashed to parts of the hull or the mast. Whether or not they lived, he could not tell. The ship's boy in just his loincloth, his body exposed and battered, was lashed to the mast. Near to him, tied to the hatch, was Publius, his helmet gone and his face moon-white. His nickname of Lux suited him more than ever as his bright blonde hair flew madly around his head. Further down the deck he could see the back of dark-haired Cato, Publius' closest comrade, Nox to his Lux. He was definitely alive, but his head was also uncovered, and he was trying to shake his curls free of the rain. With him was Rufus, still helmed, but identifiable from his long moustache, its bright red colour darkened by water. Quintus saw the shadowy figure of another, one he took to be Sextus, rocking behind him. He thought that maybe, for once...